Well, they do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 80s Parenting Podcast. I am Malinda, and I'm here with my friend Heather. Hello, Heather.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
Heather. So, Heather and I here decided that when we turned 50, we were going to do some new fun things. New fun things, Heather. So, we've been friends for 42 years, and we started this podcast to expand our minds.
Yes. Broaden our historical horizons.
Take steps back in time and learn about things that we didn't know about things that we loved, liked,
Yes.
or otherwise. So we started out talking about our childhood and all the shenanigans that we got up to. And then we thought, we keep talking about all these things that we loved and did, and why not research them and talk about it amongst ourselves and reminisce, Heather,
Yep.
reminisce.
Because back in the day, there was no GOOGLE.
Okay, here's a fun fact about Heather, real
I like
quick.
to spell.
So she knows I need to write shit down in order to know what it is, right? And so she would, her and our friend Tracy would spell out loud things and like have a conversation in spelling. And I would get like every other word. I mean, maybe AND or TO or F FROM, but I didn't get all that. And then plus I wasn't a very good speller anyway. So yeah, I was left out of that LOOP a lot. That was so, God, you bitches were annoying.
You know what else I hated?
What did you
I
hate?
hated you're too young to know.
We're all the same
Which
age.
is, I was older than everybody in our friend group if you go by birthday.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I got that I was too young to know. And Tracy's only like, what, a month older than me? Something like that. Actually, I think today is her birthday, isn't it?
Her birthday's in June.
Is it June? It's the
Yeah,
22nd, I think.
June something.
Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, you guys were mean. And we're only like, Tracy and I were only like, what, a month or two apart.
Yeah.
And you're too young to know. That's what that was the
But
line.
I got the you're too young to know. I'm like, how can I be too young to know? I'm older than all of you.
Yeah, I know. That's what you get
Like,
for having a January birthday, Heather.
like too short to know,
Maybe too
too
short.
too skinny to know. All of that would
Too,
make
I don't
sense.
know, too immature. That was my mind. I was too immature, Heather.
Jesus.
Anyway, so today we thought since we are about to go into the holiday season, the
Spooky season.
spooky Halloween,
One of my favorite times of the year.
fall, hold please. My dog, every time I record, hold on. Where is he? Hello. Okay, the mascot is here.
Ah, very nice. Tail lasso.
Tail Lasso is here. So, what was I saying? Oh, Halloween. So,
Spooky.
spooky season, spooky
Yes.
Halloween. And we love a Halloween. And we decided, hey, you know what we should talk about? Movies that scared us when we
Yeah.
were younger. And I
Yes.
mean, there was some real spooky movies that came out, Halloween or otherwise, when we were younger. Now,
Mhm.
Heather and I have two different opinions on what was scary to us at the time. But so, Heather, why don't you tell us about your childhood scared the bejesus out of you film?
Okay. So, and to this day,
Oh no,
scariest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I
really?
still, I can't I will not watch it. Even when I watched the trailer of it last night, and I was like, great, I'm not gonna sleep tonight because this shit scares the crap out of me. And it will make more sense by the time I'm
Yes.
done with this.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's premise this by saying, do you know it's fake?
Let's hear
Is
me
it?
out. Hear me
Is it?
out.
Okay. Okay.
Hear me
And
out.
we should note that all of the sources we are using are in our show notes of the
Yes.
podcast. All
Yes.
the places where we got the
All the places.
info and not just from our minds.
All right. Are you ready to go on a wild ride, kids?
Let's do it.
Scariest movie I ever saw. The original.
Mm.
Nightmare on Elm
Oh
Street.
God, ew. Wait, that's Freddie, right? Is that Freddie?
Yes,
Oh,
that's Freddie.
God,
I'll
Freddie.
give you a little brief synopsis
Ugh.
from Wikipedia here in a minute because I won't watch the movie again. Like I do remember the movie. I remember a lot of the movie, but
Everybody remembers that movie.
wow. Holy crap. That spooky ass song. Yeah.
No,
Mm-mm. Nope.
let's not sing it, shall we?
Still, it's in my head right now. It's like looping right
Yeah,
now.
I can hear it.
All right, so Nightmare on Elm Street was released November 16th, 1984 by New Line Cinema. It was
Mhm.
written and directed by Wes Craven. Interestingly, it was filmed on a $1.1 million budget, grossed, well, here's the weird thing. I
Mhm.
found two different worldwide grosses for this movie. One said 24 million, one said 57 million. That's pretty far apart.
Big
So
difference.
Wikipedia is who said 57 million. So I'm gonna go with Wikipedia over my other weird
Well,
source.
Wikipedia is people. Put that
Yeah.
in. Like,
So
not like
well,
fact.
and
Whatever. Who cares?
the one said 57 million worldwide. The other one just said 24 million. So maybe that was just 24 million in the US,
Oh, domestic.
which could have been. Anywho,
In
in
ni- in wait, in 1984 it made that much money?
mhm,
Holy crap.
yeah,
Either one. Jesus.
yeah.
That's a lot of money.
So, and here's the other thing I didn't know, and I ran out of time to look this up, but apparently the movie received quite a bit of critical acclaim when it
Yeah.
was released and is still considered by many to be the scariest movie of all time. So I'm not alone in my absolute terror of this
Raise your
movie.
hand. Raise your hand, everybody, if you hated that movie.
I mean, I loved it. I have a love-hate with it.
Yeah.
So Nightmare on Elm Street follows Freddy Krueger. So, and this again is coming from Wikipedia. It's a little plot summary. So, teenager Nancy, or sorry, Nancy comes later. Teenager Tina Gray awakens from a terrifying nightmare in which a disfigured man, aka Freddy Krueger,
Ugh.
with a bladed glove attacks her in a boiler room. Now, when she wakes up, she has slashes, tear marks on her, or tears on her nightgown.
Yeah.
So she talks to these two best friends, Nancy Thompson and Glenn Lance, and we'll talk more about Glenn here in a minute because Glenn plays a pivotal role in my life of teenage obsessions. Revealed that they too had a similar nightmare about a disfigured man. So they all have a sleepover at Tina's house, and Tina's boyfriend sneaks in. Of course, it's 80s slasher movie, so they have to have sex during the movie. They don't show it in gory detail, but and then
And a slumber party.
it's a slumber party. Yeah. So Tina falls asleep. She has a dream again that the slasher attacks her, but this time it happens in real life, and the boyfriend watches her get fatally slashed by an invisible force, and she's like dragged up the wall, and there's blood flying everywhere. It's real gory. So Nancy, who's the friend that came to the sleepover at Tina's house, her dad is a policeman. Don Thompson arrests the boyfriend Rod, despite him pleading innocence, but he was in a locked room with her. He's the only other person there. He swears he didn't do it. Blah 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 blah. So Nancy then becomes the object of Freddie's obsession to kill.
Mm.
And so she falls asleep. And do you remember this scene? She falls asleep. You watched this movie, right?
Not for a very long time, but yeah.
Okay. So she falls asleep in class. And there's a lot of stuff that happens around a boiler room.
Isn't that weird? It's always a basement, a boiler
Yeah.
room, like a
Yeah.
dark place, no windows, no doors.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
So in this dream, the man chases her into the boiler room of the school. She deliberately burns her arm on the pipe, and then that startles her awake during class, and she has an actual burn on her arm. So she's like trying to convince people that this is really happening.
Mm.
Um, So she ends up, I'm kind of trying to skim through this and move forward. Uh, so the killer keeps trying to, or Freddie keeps trying to kill her, ends up killing Rod in jail and staging it to look like a suicide. Um, Nancy's trying to convince her parents about these dreams that she's having. Nobody's believing any of them. So, in one of her dreams, she grabs his fedora because Freddie wears a fedora. Um, and she grabs it, and it's got his name like printed on the tag or somehow like embroidered on the inside or something. Anyway, it has his name on it.
Hey,
And
first
she's
thing, let me interrupt you here. First thing in serial killing, do not put your name on your clothing.
right. Exactly. So she brings it back into the real world with her, and they they sit down as a family. So Nancy's mom's name is Marge, and when she sees the fedora, she's like, "Oh crap, okay." So Marge explains that Kruger was an insane child murderer who killed 20 children but was released on a technicality.
Mm.
And he was then burned alive by the victim's parents who sought vigilante justice. So that's how he got disfigured. So now he is a vengeful ghost who's trying to get back at the parents that burned him alive, apparently.
Mm.
So
So
Glenn,
like her, like that, those kids' grandparents.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So Glenn unfortunately gets killed by the ghost also. So we started with four. Now we're down to just one, just Nancy and her parents are all that are
Nancy.
left
Yeah.
out of this slumber party thing. So Nancy ends up booby trapping her house, grabs Kruger out of a dream, booby traps him, and sets him on fire and locks him in the basement. But when the police arrive, guess what? Kruger had
Nobody's there.
escaped from the basement.
Of course he did.
um, so Nancy and Dawn, so Nancy's the girl, Dawn's the dad, that's the police officer, find a burning Kruger smothering Marge, the mom, in her bedroom.
Yeah.
Dawn extinguishes the fire. Kruger and Marge vanish into the bed. So these scenes freaked me out. He sucks people down into their beds
Yeah.
and like kills them.
And where do you go to bed every night? In a bed.
In your bed, exactly. So finally, Nancy realizes through all these dreams that Kruger's fueled by his victim's fears. So she turns her back to him and Kruger evaporates because she's like, I'm not scared of you anymore. Go to hell, dude.
Mm.
So Nancy goes out into the foggy morning after this final nightmare, and all of her friends and her mother are magically still alive. Yay for happy
Mm.
endings.
Yay.
She gets into Glenn's convertible to go to school when the top suddenly comes down and locks them in the car and speeds down the street. While Marge waves goodbye to them on the doorstep, three girls in white dresses playing jump rope chant Kruger's nursery rhyme, which cue the music in your head. Yeah, I'm sure if you've ever seen this
What is
movie,
it?
what
Like
I'm talking about.
one, two, Freddie.
1, 2, Freddie's after you.
After you.
3, 4,
Or
better
better
lock your
your
door.
door.
5, 6, grab your
Six.
crucifix, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Mm-mm. And so then, as the girls are jumping rope and chanting his nursery rhyme, Marge is grabbed by Kruger, who's come
Yeah.
back through the front window, and that's how it ends.
Oh, part
So,
two.
needless to say, there is a series of 6 Nightmare on
Yeah.
Elm Street movies. So, some interesting facts. So, the cast, Nancy Thompson is played by actress Heather Langenkamp.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Robert Englund plays Freddie Krueger,
Freddie Krueger.
or Fred Krueger, which is his actual name, but he goes by Freddie. Guess who played Glenn Lance?
Who played Glenn Lance?
Johnny Depp.
Oh,
It
did
was
he?
actually, yep, it was actually his film debut.
Oh, look at that.
Yep,
Young lad Johnny.
yep, Johnny Depp, first movie ever. And then Marge Thompson was played by Ronnie Blakely. John Saxon played Lieutenant Don Thompson, and Amanda Weiss played Tina Gray. And Nick Corey as Rod Lane. So I don't, other than Johnny Depp and Robert Englund, I don't remember like any of these
Yeah,
people going on to doing much of anything else. I'm sure they probably did, but
probably.
I just, I don't know.
Those are the names that
Those
stand.
are the names that stick out. So let's talk a little bit more about Freddie. So Freddie is a real person.
Uh-uh.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. His name was Fred Krueger, as his name is in the movie, and he was actually Wes Craven's school bully.
Mm.
So kids, don't bully your friends. They'll turn around and make slasher horror movies after
Make lots
you.
of money and say, "Where are you
Yes.
now,
Yes.
Albert?"
Freddie's sweater, that red and green, the
Yeah.
weird, creepy red and green colors, was purposely made in those particular shades of red and green side by side because the human eye has um, difficulty acknowledging them or seeing them side by side. So it makes it subliminally unsettling because the eye can't focus on the two colors or those two shades together.
Right.
Freddie's makeup, poor Robert Englund, took 3.5 hours a day to apply, and he had to wear it for 12 to 15 hours at a time.
Yeah, it's a lot of sweating in that kind of
That's a
makeup.
lot of sweating in that.
Yeah.
The iconic knife glove was based on Craven's fear of cat's claws and was made with real knives, and several people were actually injured during filming because they got cut by the
Oh,
knives.
geez. Where's that
I
knife
know.
guy on that? Where's what's the on movie sets? It's some
Oh,
kind, it's
workman's comp or hazard pay or something.
like OSHA. I don't know. Yeah,
Something.
something that wasn't abided by in the 80s.
Exactly. So here's a lighthearted fact about the movie. It was actually God, I can't talk this morning. Shot on the same stage as I Love Lucy, the TV
Hmm.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
repurpose. Why not?
I know. So many of the cast and crew were scared during the filming, despite all the lights, camera, and equipment. Many of them said that it went on to be one of the scariest things they ever did. There's a scene where the actress that plays Tina had to, I think it's Tina, had to, like, she's walking around in a body bag for some reason in one of the nightmares. And they actually went to the LA County Coroner's office and got a real body bag. And she was actually in a real body bag, which
Yeah.
she said was like absolutely terrifying. So, believe it or not only is Freddie a real person, it's based on a true story.
Nuh-uh.
Well, ish.
Ish.
So, ish.
Mm.
So, Wes Craven read a story in the New York Times about these mysterious deaths of refugees in their sleep. So I couldn't find the LA Times article, but I did find a New York Times article from 1981 that talks about 18 Laotian refugees who died mysteriously in their sleep. 17 of them were men, one was a woman. They were all reportedly very healthy prior to their death. They fled their homeland in Laos. They were part of a mountain society called the Hmong in 1975 after a communist takeover of their area.
Mm.
The deaths occurred over a 4-year period. 5 of them were in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area and were within 18 months of each other. The autopsies were performed on each of the people, and each one was completely normal. Nothing to indicate how or why they died.
Mm.
It's now believed that they had a syndrome called Bangun gut. Bangun gut, yeah. Bangun gut syndrome comes from the Filipino word for nightmare and is described in medical literature as nightmare death syndrome.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so that's how he got the idea for the movie, was because this whole article
The
talks
story.
how it could have been they died in their sleep from nightmares, which is still like a legitimate thing. So, but one possible cause of Bangkok gut is called Brugada syndrome, which is a genetic mutation that causes heart arrhythmias and is more common in individuals from the Philippines, especially men aged 20 to 40.
Hmm.
So new research links the same syndrome to acute hemorrhagic pancreatitis, and it's also associated with sleep paralysis, which no, thank you.
Dude, sleep
Sounds,
paralysis is weird.
yeah, no. And from a cultural perspective, Bungangat is associated with a mythical creature in the Philippines of the same name, which is said to be a very large woman who sits on victims' chest or face during sleep paralysis, causing them to suffocate. Now, here's the thing. If these people had suffocated, usually on an autopsy, you can see signs of that,
Yeah.
depending on how they suffocate. But usually there's some sort of findings on an autopsy. On
Hmm.
these people, there wasn't anything. So could have been that. And acute hemorrhagic pancreatitis, you would see that on an autopsy as well. So,
Would you in the 80s?
oh yeah,
Would you?
yeah, because the pancreas will be super big, it will be enlarged. I mean, pancreatitis is just enlarging of the pancreas. And then with the hemorrhagic, there would be obvious signs of excess blood loss because they'd go into hypovolemic shock and that's what would kill them. But none of that was shown in these autopsies. So I think that it
Mystery.
was more the cardiac arrhythmia
Yeah.
or extreme stress can also
Yeah.
this bungangat, or it could have been this mythical, very large lady who sat on their chests. Who knows? And it's associated, here's the funny thing, it's associated with going to bed on a full stomach. So parents would use that, don't go to bed on a full stomach or bungangat will come and get you.
No,
Urban legends.
that's terrible.
So what? So I was actually, here's my story about this movie. I
Okay.
was actually forbidden to watch this movie by my mother.
Guess what happened?
Guess what happened? I went to a sleepover at a friend's house, not this friend that I'm currently speaking to, another friend's house, whose mother let them watch whatever they wanted to. And
Yeah.
so we watched it very late at night. My mom forbid me to watch it because I had terrible night terrors. Like to this day, I have terrible nightmares 2 or 3 times a week at least. So
Yeah.
I like have always, always, always struggled
But
with.
now it's like financial.
Yeah, now it's like financial nightmares. No, not really. It's always I'm being chased by someone. Like it's every time. I need to
Yeah,
like
the bank.
yeah. Very funny. It's not the bank. It's usually very scary things. I mean, I guess the bank is very scary. The
Or your
IRS.
or your co coworkers. They're like,
The
come on,
IRS.
get to work, get to work.
So yeah, I was forbidden to watch the movie. I proceeded to watch it. I proceeded to not sleep for like 4 days. I didn't go to school. My mother was very, very, very angry, called the other mother, let the other mother have it. It became a whole lot of drama.
Yeah, Connie was big on that.
She was big on notifying other parents.
Yeah, not keeping it to herself.
No, not at
She
all.
wasn't part of that silent generation like my mom
No.
was.
No. Mm-mm. So yeah, and I did watch the movie a few more times, but I haven't watched it since probably the early 90s because every time I watch it,
Creepy.
it's very unsettling to me.
Yeah.
The idea of people dying in nightmares. And I feel like I heard when we watched it, I feel like I heard somewhere because, my parents owned a video store. So you heard a lot of information about movies that it was based on, or he came up with the idea based on this true story.
Mm.
And as an impressionable, like 12, 13-year-old,
Yeah.
you're thinking, holy shit. And at the
Yeah.
time, you thought it was just an urban legend because there was no way to look it up and find out. And we didn't have the New York Times or the LA Times or anything.
Anytimes.
We had the Phoenix Gazette. Woohoo! They weren't big on covering national news
They're
stories,
big.
I don't think.
Yeah. What's the weather? Hot.
Exactly. That's all you need to know, kids.
That's it. Yeah, that was a scary movie, but it's interesting though because usually it's like artists take things from their real life to make
Yeah,
it art. So that's interesting that he did that. And he's been around for a minute.
he
Wes,
has. He's made a lot of movies,
a
and
lot of movies, like creepy stuff.
it really was a scary movie.
It was really scary. So I remember watching that, and then I remember watching I don't know, some documentary or something where they showed the behind the scenes where he uh what's the guy, Freddie, what's his name?
Robert England.
Robert was in the makeup chair.
Ugh,
I remember that and like watching them put, they did like a time lapse of makeup and I go, "Oh, it
yeah.
makes it less scary when you see the guy that plays Freddie putting on the makeup."
It does. And I think for me, the fear doesn't come from the actual
Yeah,
movie. Like
movie.
I know that the actors
Yeah,
are
it's like
fake. I
fake.
know it's all fake. It's the fact that I have these nightmares so often.
Yeah,
It's the thought of like, oh crap, because people really do die in their sleep
yeah, I
for
know.
various reasons. And so it's
Some
that
people say it's the better way to go.
yeah, I think it's that fear of like death and facing my own
Yeah,
mortality and then having the nightmares on top of it. I don't think it's the actual like movie
movie,
itself.
the plot.
Yeah.
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 Well, Heather, yes, that was a very scary movie. And now when you go to sleep tonight, don't get sucked in your bed.
I'll try not to. I didn't last night and I was very afraid after doing research on this movie all day. I was like, oh crap, I'm not going to sleep at all tonight.
There you go. You know what doesn't happen is getting sucked into your couch or your floor. So you can go sleep on those if you get scared.
Yeah. I did sleep some on the couch last night. When I first fell asleep. Once I was getting tired, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get in my bed
Yeah, I
now.
can go. I know. Speaking of, I keep yawning today. Well, that was a definitely a scary movie of our youth
Yeah.
for
I have
sure.
some runners up and honorable mentions, but first I want to hear about your scary movie. What's the
Runner,
scariest movie you have?
runners up and honorable mentions of what? Scary
Scary
movies?
movies from the
Yeah, I
80s.
have one too. I have two, Heather. I have two movies that scared me. And I mean, I'm a fan of like true crime, so that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I can listen to it, but I cannot watch it because I don't want to see what people look like. Like,
Okay.
I want to form that in my mind, right?
Yeah.
What people look like. So the stuff that scares me, even now, are those this could happen in real life situation.
Uh-huh.
Like the suspenseful movies where it's, like Jaws. Like that could
Yeah.
happen.
Mhm.
Jaws could happen.
It does. I mean, they don't, Jaws hasn't attacked a boat yet that I'm aware of, but people do get attacked by sharks.
I know, and that's why it's scary. So, Heather, in 1984, how old were we? 11, 12, 12 years old,
11.
11
Probably
years
11.
old.
Mhm.
There is a movie that came out called Red Dawn.
Oh, I
Do you remember Red
remember.
Dawn?
Yeah, I
Okay,
do.
so it's not like a slasher gory
No.
movie, but it's like it it's something that in my mind, and I still think about it, could actually happen.
Mhm.
And I've told you recently that like if stuff goes down, I'm gonna put a fence or have it all planned out.
You live right next to a military base. Just run for cover there.
I don't trust them, but I will take their space
Yeah, there
and
you
their
go.
fence. There's a golf course. I will take their fence. I'll put it around my house. Live happily ever after.
There you go.
Ish here. Anyway, so Red Dawn was made in 1984, and they also did a remake in 2012, which I did not know about.
I knew about it. I'm trying to remember if I watched. I feel like I watched it.
Yeah, I don't want to
I
watch
didn't
it.
like it as much as the original.
Like you were just saying, you watched the trailer. I watched the trailer, and I was like, "Ooh, no."
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't remember. We were at the movie theater watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, or we watched it on video. I don't know. I don't know.
I think
Whatever.
we saw it at the theater.
Yeah, I think we did see it at the theater. Yeah, so my thing was, oh, anyway, let me go into what Red Dawn is in case nobody knows. So originally it was called 10 Soldiers.
Really?
Yeah. The script was written by Kevin Reynolds and produced by Barry Beckman. And I think it was Barry. Okay, so Sidney Beckman is Barry's father, and he helped him with it. He gave him 5 grand to option the movie to different studios, which I found fascinating because nobody wanted to take it on.
Really?
It was kind of like an art, they considered it like an art picture.
It
Not,
was probably based on the topic of the movie and the timing. It was probably a little bit like controversial too.
oh yeah, yeah, it was. So anyway, in the 80s, this is the plot summary of the old Red Dawn. I'll put the all the references in the show notes. The in the 80s, the United States becomes increasingly isolated after Green political party gains power in West Germany and successfully persuades Western Europe to remove its nuclear weapons. Subsequently, NATO dissolves. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union is devastated by the failed wheat harvest and invades Poland to suppress food and labor riots. Soviet allies from Cuba
Cuba?
and Nicaragua build up their military strength, while El Salvador and Honduras fall under Soviet influence, and a communist group seizes control in Mexico. So all
Mm-hmm.
this is happening around the world, and you into the United States.
Yep.
So in the town of Calumet, Colorado, a high school class is interrupted by Soviet-led invasion. So this is where in the movie when you see all these paratroopers coming in, and I don't know, for some reason they picked this little tiny town of Colorado and not New York City.
Oh, then they didn't stop in Arizona anywhere on their way up.
I know. So anyway, they picked this small town in yeah, in the movie too. You know how they get you where they're like, is it happening all over United States or is it just in this little tiny town?
Yeah,
So they never really they never go into that. I don't
right.
think that the whole world was on fire or United States anyway. So
Yeah,
people in Arizona were like, what day is it? Go swimming.
right.
We're not going to be we're
We're
not
not
going to
worried.
be invaded. So some students, including brothers Jed and Matt Eckert, played by Patrick Swayze, R.I.P.,
R.I.P.
and Charlie Sheen. So they were young lads
Yeah, they
in
were
the
very
80s.
young.
Yeah. They escaped the chaos of the Soviet paratroopers and they beat feet up to the mountains that they are
Mhm.
very familiar with. And they um
Didn't they take a bunch of friends with them? I feel like there were more.
yeah, they did. So they took Jed, Matt, and their friends Robert, played by C. Thomas Howell, Danny, played by Brad Savage, Daryl is Darren Dalton, and Arturo, who I couldn't find who played him, flee to the countryside after procuring supplies and weapons from a store run by Robert's father, who's Harry Dean Stanton. So you know Harry Dean Stanton, yeah, R.I.P. also. So while they encounter a Soviet roadblock, they are saved by U.S. helicopter gunship. After several weeks hiding in the forest, the group learns that Mr. Eckert, so the dad, is held in a re-education camp at the Kalmutz drive-through. That's funny. Visiting the camp, they speak to him through the fence and learn that Mr. Eckert is dead. He tells the group to avenge him. So
Mm,
poor dad dies.
mhm.
And it's crazy because like, they house all you know, in the movie, they line them all up like just citizens and just shoot them and stuff. And in my little mind, I thought that that would happen any moment.
Well, and you have to remember in the 80s, we were still in the height of the Cold War. So, like, a
Yeah.
Soviet attack was talked
Yeah.
about all the time. There was on the nightly
Mhm.
news, there was
Yep.
talk about communism and the Soviets attacking and nuclear war. And so it was scary times for.
Scary times.
Children.
Yeah, that's true. And in my little mind, I didn't know any of that kind of stuff. I just thought
Mhm.
like that people were going to come and take us away,
Yeah.
away from our families. So they're up in the woods and they have all their guns and things like that. And all of a sudden these teenagers are like full on military soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. Well-trained, full-on military soldiers who are highly equipped.
I guess it's all the firearms the parents had
They have an impressive
apparently.
weapons cache.
Oh, I know. Well, you should see it. It's funny because I was gonna show you the trailer of it, but it's a couple minutes long. And it's like they dig holes and they build fake hidey holes
Uh-huh.
and then they jump out and shoot some of the people. And you're like, how did you know how to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Paratroopers.
and like, how did they not see you digging these holes?
Right.
You
In the
know?
dead of night, they went out under the moonlight.
Yeah, and then they made it look, and then they put some old dirt on there to make it look like they didn't dig holes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they visit the Mason family as one of the kids, and they ask Jed and Matt if they would take care of their granddaughters. So here comes the two female characters,
Gotta have a female.
Tony and Erica. So Jennifer Grey
Oh
and
yeah.
Leah Thompson, who were very big in the 80s.
Yeah, for
Very,
sure.
mhm. Um, the group begins launching guerrilla attacks on occupied forces, calling themselves the Wolverines.
Yes.
The Wolverines. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. So they named it it was their high school mascot.
Okay.
It's like they didn't come up with it on their own.
That makes sense.
So they were the Wolverines. So they went to avenge the dad's death and they meet with a pilot from the United States Air Force who informs them of the current state of the war. Several American cities, including Washington, D.C., were destroyed by nuclear strikes. Oh yeah, I guess there was
Oh, there you go.
talk of that. I don't remember. Because I haven't watched it since.
No.
No. Maybe a couple of times I would see like bits and pieces of it, if it was on TV, but no thanks.
Mhm.
So they were destroyed by nuclear strikes, and Strategic Air Command was crippled by Cuba. The paratroopers were dropped from commercial airlines to seize key positions in preparation for the main assault via Mexico and Alaska. Most of the Southwest United States and Northwest Canada were occupied by Soviets, but Americans counterattack halted their advances between the Rocky Mountains and the Mississippi River.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good job.
that's a lot of space, though.
Way to go, America.
Yeah. So, Europe decided to remain neutral. So they were, Switzerland all the way.
Mhm.
Americans only remained foreign allies. They only remained foreign allies with China and the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So we had China and the UK on our sides, apparently.
Yay.
I know. So uh fights broke out, people were killed, and it's mainly these high school kids with the help of some Air Force pilots, like went to town and just took over. Like these
Yeah.
Soviet forces and all these grown-ups that were like
Right.
military people. So, I mean, really like a far reach. But when you think about it, kids have like no fear,
No.
so it's like then at that time, you weren't thinking about your mortgage or you,
Right.
you were
Your
thinking about
children.
your children, your parents, you were thinking about your grade or who
Right.
you're going to date or take to the dance. You're not worried about
Mhm.
anything else. So kind of fearless. So those are maybe that's why they sign up people when they're 18. Hmm, interesting.
Not worried about your mortality yet.
Exactly. And so uh some of the Wolverines get killed for Jennifer Grey's character. And let's see. Shortly thereafter, the remaining Wolverines are ambushed by a Soviet helicopter gunship, which killed Tony and Robert. Jed and Matt decide to attack the occupational forces in Calumet to distract them while Danny and Erica escape. And the plan works. Ta-da!
Yay!
So in the closing scene, a plaque is shown in the mountains. It's fenced off, and the U.S. flag flies nearby, confirming that the U.S. ultimately won the war. The
Good job.
plaque states that in the early days of World War III,
Mm.
guerrillas, mostly children, placed the names of their lost upon this rock. They fought here alone and gave up their lives. So to this nation shall not perish from the earth. So that is a little synopsis of that movie that scared the bejesus out of me when I was younger. So,
Another one on the same, along the same lines that was kind of creepy.
Mhm.
War Games.
Yeah, same
That
season.
was creepy.
Yeah. That one was creepy, but to me it was more fascinating
Hmm.
because the end point was
Playing a game.
playing the game, and then it was the computer, so like you could actually stop that. It wasn't physical people
Could
killing
you?
you. Oh, could you?
AI is pretty smart.
Yeah, so this movie was filmed in and around the city of Las Vegas, New
Woo.
Mexico. Las Vegas, New Mexico, not
Oh,
Las Vegas.
darn it.
Nevada. Many of the buildings and structures which appear in the film include the historic Fred Harvey Company Hotel, adjacent to the train depot, the train yard, and the building near downtown, which was repaired with the name. Oh, they repainted it and put the Calumet, Colorado on it.
Nice.
Yeah. Referencing the town. Oh, it's a town in Michigan that's still there today.
Okay.
An old Safeway grocery store was converted to a soundstage and used several scenes in the movie.
Huh.
So, a couple of interesting facts. Before starting the movie, the cast underwent an intensive 8-week military training course.
Well, there you go. That's how they learned how to do everything.
I know. Uh, some of the weaponry devised in the film did not work. Futuristic helicopters created for the film did not have the FAA approval to fly over people. The budget increased to $11 million to $15 million. It
Hmm.
eventually came in at 19 million to make. And Red Dawn was the 20th highest grossing film of 1984, opening on August 10th in 822 theaters and taking 8.2 million on its first weekend. And its box office gross is $38.3 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Um, at the time of its release, Red Dawn was considered the most violent film by the Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh my God.
No, isn't that funny?
That's crazy.
Yep. And the National Coalition of Television Violence with the rating of 134 acts of violence per hour or 2.2 per minute.
Holy crap.
Yeah. The 2007 DVD special edition includes an on-scene carnage counter in the nod. So they have a count of how many people get killed, apparently. I ain't watching it. Um, so here's some interesting uh bits and bobs, shall we say, from the UK reference.
Okay.
The operation to capture former Iraq dictator Saddam Hussein was named Operation Red Dawn.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. And its targets were dubbed Wolverine 1 and Wolverine 2.
Huh.
So that's interesting. Army Captain Jeff McMurray, who named the mission, said the naming was so fitting because it was a patriotic pro-American movie.
Nice.
Yes. Um, interestingly, Red Dawn has influenced a number of video games.
I can imagine.
Yeah. It's weird because it was like one of the first ones of its kind,
Hmm.
like a war movie. So there was a freedom fighter game. The plot of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 includes an invasion of the United States in an ultra naturalistic Russia. So like a nod to the Red Dawn. Homefront. I've heard of Call of Duty, but not these other ones.
Yeah.
Homefront video game. One notable Easter egg relating to the film in a large billboard at the school sports stadium reads "Go Wolverines."
Nice.
It's kind of funny. Um, in the wake of COVID-19, a string of emails by the Trump administration officials called those the Red Dawn emails. Not
Really?
film's reference. Yeah, so I guess COVID-19 were the Red Dawn emails.
Hmm.
And during the Russian invasion of Ukraine, several Russian armored vehicles destroyed by the Ukrainians appeared with the words Wolverine spray painted in white, which is weird because I think I remember seeing that
Yeah.
like on the news recently, like
Hmm.
a couple years ago, right? Um, I said that. Oh, there was five of the 36 paratroopers in the beginning of the movie were blown off course during filming. One paratrooper got stuck in a tree and had to convince locals that he wasn't an enemy soldier.
Oh no.
Poor guy.
Oh crap.
I know. C. Thomas Howell, who played a rodeo cowboy in another movie, helped teach the other cast members how to ride the horses. Patrick Swayze, poor Patrick, got frostbite while filming
Oh.
in Colorado. And a nod to one of our other episodes, Heather. So Steven Spielberg suggested that the movie get a PG-13 rating instead of an R rating, and that was the very first PG-13.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's
A new,
cool.
our new rating, so between R and PG.
Yeah.
So, kids, your 13-year-olds could see it, but I was 11.
Had to go with the parents,
So
or the
that
parents had
didn't
to buy the
that
ticket.
sure. I doubt it made it around the rounds before then. They're probably like, what is this? No, you go ahead, kid.
Yeah.
Either that or we just like we snuck into the movie.
We
So
snuck in. We bought the tickets to another movie all the time.
oh yeah, there was no assigned seats.
No.
So and we didn't care if we sat up in the front. So that movie and several others like that in my life, I I'm always aware of my surroundings and what I would do in a similar situation. I mean, I'm not a doomsday prepper, but I think about it.
Yeah.
I think about like, but basically thinking like, how long could I survive? Because I'd basically be screwed.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more people with a lot more resources than I have.
Yeah.
But
Well, my runners up.
yeah, let's hear. I have a runner. I have one runner up. Yeah, go ahead.
What's your runner up?
Night of the Comet. Whoa!
Oh, that was good.
That was terrifying for me.
That was good.
Terrifying.
That was good.
But I loved the scene where, so long story short, it's, you know, aliens come down and like red dust people. So there's little splats of red dust. And these two teenage girls were in a movie theater with their boyfriends, and so it was dark. So they come out and everyone's gone. And then the
Yeah.
best scene was they're like, let's go shopping. And so they take over the mall and they buy all the stuff at the mall. And that was like one of those dreams. Like, oh, wouldn't that be fun?
Right.
But like everybody, wait, nobody's there anymore, but you can go shopping.
Nice. My runner up has to be The Shining.
Oh yeah,
That's creepy.
that is
Creepy.
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 The
And
Shining is creepy because I mean, some unrealistic shit like the blood scene
yeah.
in the hallway and the weird twins, but that maze, no, no, thank you,
Oh. Well, I
no.
watched, so this time of year when it gets to be spooky season is when I am always on the Travel Channel watching like scariest places in America, most haunted
Mm.
places in the world, all that kind of crap. And so there was one episode where they actually did the oh, I'm gonna get it backwards. It's the Stanley Hotel in real life,
Oh yeah.
I think. Is the Overlook. I gotta Google that really quick because I might be wrong. Um,
So they do like an experience.
Well, so Stephen King was trying to come up with a new movie idea,
Mhm.
and hold on. Yeah, it's the Stanley Hotel in real life. So him and his wife were on a vacation, and they were driving through the mountains in Colorado,
Yeah. Ooh,
and they found this
Colorado.
like really creepy, super isolated hotel called the Stanley. And he went
Mhm.
inside for a few hours, and the whole movie came to him while he was in this hotel. And supposedly, the Stanley Hotel is one of the most haunted places in America. And
Mm.
on one of the floors, there actually are reports that you can hear children playing and see children.
Cool. Let's go.
Yeah. So I'm like, sweet. So the
Would you
Stanley,
go stay there?
yeah. Yeah, I've stayed at two haunted hotels in Arizona.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, the Hassayampa in Prescott, and
Ah,
then
see,
the Hotel Monte Vista in Flagstaff.
why does that
The
sound
Hotel Monte Vista
familiar?
is actually on one of the episodes of the scariest places in America.
Spooky Halloween.
Yeah, I know. And then you can't leave out Pet
Yeah.
Cemetery, which came out in
Oh,
1989,
God.
Poltergeist, which came out in 1982.
Yeah, no thanks.
And then there's a whole host of other ones. If you want a list of good scary movies, my recommendations to go watch, in addition to the ones we've talked about today,
Mm.
you got Christine, came out in 1983.
Yeah, a lot of Stephen King.
Yeah, Cujo came out in 1983.
That one, no,
Children of the Corn, 1984.
still use
Also
that
Stephen King.
reference. Still use that reference today.
The Lost Boys, 1987, which I didn't find to be a scary movie, but it is a very good movie.
Well, like vampire scary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Child's Play, again, Chucky, 1988, classic. It's a
Yeah.
stupid movie, but it's fun to watch. The Hitcher, The Stepfather, Friday the 13th, and Gremlins, which Gremlins to me is a Christmas movie.
Gremlins, yeah. Don't feed him after midnight.
I didn't think there was nothing scary about that movie to me. I thought it was adorable, but it was on
It
my
was
list.
more like it was more like gross.
It was gory, yeah. When the
Like some
Mogwai
of
turned.
those are just like, which one is Stephen King's movie? Is it Cujo where it's like a big dog, right?
Yeah, it's a rabid Saint Bernard
And
that attacks the mom.
but the mom is like in a car or something.
So they're in a car, their car breaks down, and she goes to like try to get help
Yeah,
or call a tow truck or something, and the dog attacks her, and it turns out that the dog had already eaten the people that lived in the farmhouse.
yeah. I think
Interestingly enough, when I was a kid, we lived in Iowa and we lived on farms, and my mom always made like bread and pies and stuff like that
mm,
because she was old hippie who did everything herself. And she baked some bread or something, and we were taking it to one of the landlord's houses because we rented these farms, and not quite Cujo size, but they had a small dog, and the people weren't home, so she was going to just leave the bread on their porch.
yeah.
And the dog bit her while I was waiting in the car. It's like I had a real life Cujo tale.
Dang.
Didn't have rabies, but
That's good.
yeah,
Yes, so there was a lot of scary movies in our youth.
yeah.
Now it's plentiful.
Oh yeah,
Now they're remaking all of them.
I know. And now they're like creepy stuff like Annabelle and The
Yeah.
Ring. And
I don't Oh, The Ring was creepy.
that was creepy. That girl walking all weird. And
Yeah, I know. And a lot of it too is when I watch these scary movies now, which I don't really watch
yeah,
anymore,
I don't either.
they I just picture the filming of them and that's how I get through it.
Yeah.
Or I just turn it off because I can do that now.
Yeah. I used to be a huge scary movie fan, but now I'm like, no.
Now I do like mystery, uh,
Yeah.
but mostly comedy or drama.
Yeah.
Sprinkle in a good reality TV show every now and again.
I've watched one.
Dude,
Did you
Selling
watch that?
Sunset. Selling Sunset
Oh,
is amazing.
no.
It's
I
amazing.
watched
Not the other ones, not the other ones of the Oppenheimers, not the other ones that they branched out to do. No, those aren't good. Selling Sunset's the best one.
Did you watch the Real Housewives or the real what? No, the Real Lives of Mormon Wives?
No, I know too many Mormons and I know that that's
That's
fake.
a car crash that you can't walk away from.
No, that's all put together for TV because I know too many Mormons and they're not like that.
No, I know. All the Mormons that I know are like, yeah, we're not fans of
No, it's
like
just
none of it. None of it. Like
silly.
you can't sit there and call yourself, well, never mind. I'll just
Well, no, I mean, but that's the thing, right? So, like on social media, I know Mormons that are on social media and they're influencers and stuff. And I mean, do they look similar? Yes. Do they have the same values and stuff like that? Yeah. But I mean, we grew up in a giant population of Mormons, so we were always at their family nights.
yeah.
They
So
they
they look
welcome
same
anybody,
thing.
not just Mormon. No,
Yeah.
you don't have to, be the same religion.
Some of my best some of my very good mom friends are Mormon and they
Yeah.
act nothing like this.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I can't say, but I can only imagine what they're
Yeah.
they're
It's
acting like for TV. Now, Love is Blind is also another
yeah.
great gem of a show.
It's funny because I am not a reality TV person. So the fact that I watched this one, it was only because I had multiple people being like, you have to watch
You have to
this. It's
watch it.
absolutely fascinating.
So I don't have Hulu, that's probably why.
It's on oh yeah, it is on Hulu. Is it
Yeah,
on Hulu?
I don't know.
I don't
I don't
know.
know, but that's okay. I won't watch that one. Like I don't like The Bachelor and all that kind of stuff. Like those are kind of weird. I
No.
used to watch American Idol all the time and then that got boring.
Yeah.
All those shows after a while, you're like, we started out watching like Survivor and all those
Real world.
The Real World. Well, yeah, The Real World. And then Amazing Race was always a classic one.
I still like American Ninja Warrior. I watch that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll like if it's on sometimes I'll watch it.
Yeah.
But after a while, you're like, how many more seasons?
Mhm.
Like, how many more can you possibly do?
I don't
But,
know.
a lot of the talent show ones have produced a lot of great artists. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Well, now I think I'm gonna go watch like Practical Magic or some sort of Halloweeny TV.
Halloweeny TV.
So as to not scare myself completely.
Oh, yeah, you can watch this. It's a Great Pumpkin.
Classic.
Charles. Charles Brown. Charles Brown.
Classic.
I got a rock.
Mhm.
Anyway, thank you, everybody.
Have a good week.